Hello, and thank you for joining us again for another Liquid Web demonstration. My name is Shezvi Lepekele with special guest Nathan Rodriguez, a CloudSites account manager that will be taking you through our Liquid Web business email. Now, with no further ado, here's Nathan Rodriguez.
Hey guys, Nathan here with Liquid Web, looking to show you what we can do with our email control panel and how to get started. Hopefully you'll find this walkthrough helpful. Let's go ahead and take a dive here. So after you log into manage.liquidweb.com, this is how you are going to access your email control panel. Go ahead and select domains on the left-hand side. You will then select the email tab over here towards the right. This section will show you your email control panel login and then your login for webmail. So depending on what you need to do, you can go to either. If you need to add more domains, that can be done here. And then you can also modify the amount of mailboxes that you have per each domain. We want to go ahead and access our email control panel, so we'll click here, which will log us in via SSO. So once here, you'll be able to see all the tools available to manage your email domains within our hosted mail environment. Go ahead and we'll start under the email hosting section just to kind of run through all the basics here. So we want to click on mailboxes. You will see your domain here. Currently we only have one domain, but if you have multiple, you'll be able to select which domain you want to add a mailbox to. We'll go ahead and add a mailbox here. It shows that we have 1 of 4 available, so I want to add a mailbox. The details are fairly straightforward here, and what we'll do is we can add a mailbox listing out all the detailed information right here for your user. You'll notice that when we add our password, it will actually tell you the encryption strength that you're using with the recommended parameters that we have outlined. Under here, under directory services, you can choose whether or not to enable each mailbox to be visible in your company directory, which applies to the Liquid Web business email mailboxes, or visible in Hosted Exchange global address list. Remember, you can do a hybrid of domains, combining both the POP imap mailboxes and Hosted Exchange. So it looks like we've got all our information filled out here, so I want to go ahead and add this mailbox to the Chuck Radke. So usually these mailboxes will provision within a couple of minutes, and they should be available for use after that. So after you add a mailbox, it will take you to your setup instructions. From here, you can open the client configuration tool, but we can get into that in just a little bit. Let's go back to the general tab just to cover a few more points here. So once you've got the mailbox created, you'll be able to see the name, first and last, along with the display name. You'll also be able to see the current storage and the total mailbox size. The current usage actually updates nightly, so you'll be able to see what your users are using, assuming they're storing mail within their mailbox. The contact info tab is fairly straightforward. It has a lot of information that applies to your users, their names, their numbers, departments, and addresses if necessary. The forwarding and auto reply tab will allow you to forward these mailboxes to any email address that you want. You can also enable an auto reply below. Now, these mailboxes, you can forward a maximum of 15 addresses for which can be outside of the domain. Generally, there's not a whole lot of need for much forwarding beyond that, but if you do need assistance, we can definitely help walk you through that. The alias tab is essentially like adding another deliverable address to a mailbox. So instead of paying for additional mailboxes, you can always add a sales at, info at, or help at to a specific mailbox for your users to be able to get those emails. The settings tab has granular controls over each POP imap mailbox for you to be able to enforce on your users. You can do this on a per domain or a per mailbox basis. Right here, some of the controls that you see are for access controls. I myself, as a previous email admin, like to disable POP just so my users won't accidentally pop mail off the server, and it just makes my life a lot easier. In addition, you can also enable folder cleanup tools right here that you see. You can actually have messages deleted older than X amount of days or over X amount of messages. So if you have a user that doesn't quite listen to your instructions at cleaning up mail, you can definitely enforce that as needed right here. Last, we'll go back to our setup instructions here. So you can see if you click here, this will actually allow you to access settings to be able to set up this mailbox on mobile devices or desktop mail clients. So if I open this client configuration tool, it'll go ahead and take us to the support center. After you're here, you want to go ahead and log into the mailbox in question. And after you log in, it'll take you to this dashboard, really nice dashboard that gives you a nice breakdown on the status of the mailbox, whether or not it's locked out, whether or not it can send or receive at the current time, and what the mobile synchronization status is. It'll also tell you if the password is valid or not. Some quick reference information right here will allow you to access the incoming settings and the outgoing settings if you need to configure your mailbox on a mail client. In addition, you'll also have the webmail link right here. The default one is webmail.emailsrvr.com. Okay. Now, if we want to go ahead and look at how to set up our mailbox next, we can go ahead and click on Setup Email, and this will walk you through instructions for whichever device you're looking to set up. So if we click on Computer, I am a Windows user. Sorry, Mac people. I can go ahead and select Outlook 2016, and then based on the protocol that you want to use, you can use either imap or pop. We want to use imap. Obviously, that'll help synchronize all your mail folders. So this will walk you through all the individual steps to set up an imap account on your Outlook 2016 mail client. So even the settings are filled out for you along with the username. The only thing you need to fill in is the password, of course, which you or your end user should memorize. That's it for the client configuration tool. There is also a troubleshooting tab that will help explain some of the more common issues that some of our users will see. So in other words, if we have duplicate messages in our junk folder, we do have an FAQ article that will allow you to troubleshoot that on your own if you wish. Last, we also have tools for Cloud Drive. So this will allow you to set up and access the Cloud Drive if you've gotten the Plus package that comes with the 30 gig Cloud Drive offering. Okay. We'll go ahead and log out of here. We're all done with this dashboard. So I want to go back to my mailbox list here and look at the mailboxes that I have enabled on my chuckradke.com domain. You'll see I have two currently created, one for Chuck and then one for Nathan myself. This one will show you the last login date. So for Chuck Radke, he last logged in a few days ago on November the 8th with about 0 megs of usage. Let's say, I need to let go of an employee, or, Chuck, I need to kill his access to his mailbox. I'll go ahead and I'll block the access right here. Email will still be delivered to mailboxes that you block. The user will just not be able to log into them. So you see we've blocked access to Chuck at chuckradke.com, so we'll wait to get a phone call from him before we enable that. Next, let's go to group lists and go ahead and check out exactly just what a group list is. So a group list is essentially just a distribution list with granular controls. Okay, so we want to create a sales at group list with the subject tag sales, of course. You can select the list type, whether it be an announcement list where replies go directly to the sender, or it's a group discussion where replies go to the distribution list itself. So again, very granular controls for you to be able to change your group list as needed. You can select the recipients to be all mailboxes within your domain, all mailboxes and aliases within the domain, or just specific mailboxes and aliases. So again, more granular controls on your recipients. In addition, you can also authorize senders. So you can keep senders restricted to the group only. You can open it up to where any mailbox on the domain can send to your group, or you can restrict it to just specific users to be able to send to that group list. You can also authorize senders outside of the domain, of which you have a limit of 250. Next, we want to go to aliases. An alias, as explained before, is just another deliverable address. You can attach aliases to mailboxes here on your domains. So let's say, for instance, I have a website. I want my customers to email me for information at info@. I want both myself and Chuck to be able to receive those messages. So I will add both Chuck and Nathan as a member of the info alias. I can also add members outside of the domain, if necessary, up to 4 max. Next, we'll go to spam settings. So here in spam settings is where I can control individual spam handling on a per mailbox basis. I can also do this on a domain-wide basis, but for now, let's go ahead and check out the per mailbox settings. So status is pretty self-explanatory: on, off, or exclusive. Exclusive means that mailboxes will only receive mail from addresses and IPs on your safe list. In addition, you can manage how email and spam is handled. You can have it be delivered to the spam folder and have it deleted after X amount of days or over a certain amount of total email messages. You can also tell it to delete the message immediately if necessary. You can prepend the subject line with the spam tag at the beginning, or you can deliver it to another address within the domain if that's what you choose to do. If we go up here, we can check the blacklist section as well. This is fairly straightforward. You can add domains, email addresses, and IPs, and the nice thing is that you can use wildcards when entering in domains. You can also use wildcards on IPs. For instance, if you're dealing with Russian spammers, they're known to use specific IP blocks, so you can definitely block those IP ranges here if necessary. If you do have a list that you want to export, you can certainly export your blacklist right here. Next, we'll go to the safe list. This is the exact same interface, of course, for messages that we want to allow through the domain. So again, you can safe list a domain, an email address, and an IP range using wildcards as well. Next, I want to go to the webmail tab, which will allow me to create a company directory. So here in the company directory, this is essentially the phone book, right? The list for your company where everyone can go in and see all deliverable addresses within the domain. You can choose whether or not to have specific members within your company directory. You'll see that right here I have both Chuck and Nathan as a part of the company directory. You can also add members outside of the domain if necessary and edit the contact information as needed. So that's useful for any sort of external resources that your users may have to engage with. Let's go back to the top of the company directory here. You can choose to have multiple company directories if necessary, and remember, you can apply these to any specific domain. So if I had multiple domains, I can share one directory with multiple domains. If we go here in the settings, this is where we'll get some granular control on our company directory here. So here in the email settings tab, this is where the admins can enable features for the email domain. So you can enable SMS password recovery. We can enable Dropbox integration and chat as well. There's also language displays. If your users speak different languages, you can enable different languages here to be the default. Your end users can also change these within the webmail interface. Let's go to this next settings tab here. So this is where we can activate full mailbox notifications. If your users if you want to have your users receive a notice at any of these percentages, you can certainly set that. You can also enable a CC email address to be copied in whenever those messages get sent out. So this is especially useful for helping managing your users that don't like to pay attention to their quotas. You can also make the message custom, and all your initial message is already preloaded here for you guys. Next, we can go to the folder cleanup option. This will enable the folder cleanup options that we were looking at previously on a mailbox basis, but enforce them on a domain-wide basis. So we can definitely save this for users that have not set their own preferences, or we can override it for everybody on the domain if necessary. Next, we'll go check out global access rights. Again, more granular controls on accessing mailboxes just on a per domain basis. So again, I'm not a big fan of POP myself, so I'll go ahead and I'll override that for the entire domain. Next, we will go to the spam section. So with spam, again, this is the exact same as the per mailbox controls, except that you can manage these on a per domain basis. So if I need to enforce these options domain wide, I can certainly do so. If by chance you have hosted Exchange, you can certainly send all your spam messages to the quarantine manager, which is a separate quarantine mailbox specifically for spam. Blacklist and safe lists look exactly the same as managing them on a per mailbox basis, so I can blacklist domains, email addresses, and IPs using ranges and wildcards as well. If I need to search for any sort of blacklist IP or domain name, I can do that from within this section right here. Next, we'll click on Tools. For instance, if we need to enable split domain routing, this is where you can split up your mail environments between two different environments. So, for instance, if we have chuckradke.com pointing towards our mail environment, however, if I'm in the middle of migration and I still have mailboxes on my external server, I can always enable our hosted mail environment to be able to send mail to an external server. So what happens is if MX records point to us first, once we see that mail comes in and we see that split domain routing is enabled, our hosted mail environment will look for the address. If it doesn't find it within our system, we will then go ahead and spit it back out to this external mail server. So setting up SDR is fairly simple and straightforward, and as always, if you need help, please let us know. We'll have our support team help you out. If you need to email everyone within the domain for whatever particular reason, you can always do so from here as an admin with any important messages that you need to. For companies that need disclaimers, you can insert plain text and HTML-based disclaimers within your signatures, which will be attached to any email sent from the domain. You can also have catch-all addresses. They are not activated by default, but for any message that hits your domain that does not have a mailbox, a deliverable mailbox, this catch-all will be able to catch it. So this is useful for very specific use cases. If you need to look up third-party spam lists, we do have the capability for you to do so as an admin. If you click here, you can always search by IP or hostname to see if your IP or your hostname is listed on any of the RBLs that we utilize. Next, if we go to reports, we can see the company name, the domain name, the account number, and the amount of mailboxes that we have assigned to each domain. Next, if we click on mailbox details, this will give me a breakdown of all the mailboxes that I have on my account and listing the appropriate details as well. For mail forwarding, this will let me know which mailboxes are being forwarded and to what address if applicable. I want to go back to the main section of the email control panel here and just kind of go over some of the last few tools that we've got available to us as admins. So if we go back to domains here, we'll be able to see the list of tools that we have here. If we need help with DKIM, we can always add it here for any extra signatures and verification that your domains need. For email archiving, once you've enabled email archiving from manage.liquidweb.com, you can go ahead and access your archive from here, which we can always explore on a separate demo. However, this is how you would access the email archiving interface. Next, for global access rights, again, this is where you can manage your access rights on a global level for all your accounts. And some of these other controls are very similar to what you've seen before, both spam, blacklisting, safe listing, again, all manageable on a global basis. And that just about concludes the email control panel demo. As always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit us up. We'll be happy to help walk you through. Thank you so much.